Imagine opening the diary of like a prominent 19th century educator and youth leader.
Right, you'd expect something pretty mundane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're taking a glance at their daily planner, you naturally expect to find a very predictable, almost tedious rhythm. You anticipate seeing notes on curriculum planning, maybe a roster of new students, or, I don't know, a budget review for the local bake sale.
You definitely don't expect prophecies.
Right. Instead, sandwiched right between a polite thank you note to a donor and a localized youth retreat is this chillingly accurate prophecy about a teenager's sudden death.
Yeah, it's intense.
And then just a few pages later, there's a covert plot to smuggle hand-picked bishops past the newly formed, highly suspicious Italian government.
It is the absolute definition of chronological whiplash. I mean, you are jumping from the terrifyingly supernatural to the incredibly bureaucratic and then straight into international shadow diplomacy.
All on the exact same date.
Yes, all within the span of a single calendar page.
Well, welcome to this deep dive. Our mission today is highly unusual because we are not going to read a biography from start to finish, and we aren't zooming in on one isolated historical event.
Which is how we usually do things.
Exactly. Instead, the sources we are looking at today take a core sample of a single date. We are looking at August 19th across multiple years, specifically from 1862 to 1885. And every single one of these snapshots centers entirely on the life of one man, Don Bosco.
It is such a revealing way to examine a historical figure's life, you know? By locking the date in place and letting the years fast forward, you bypass that polished narrative of a standard biography.
Yeah, it feels more raw.
Totally. You get to see the sheer unvarnished chaos of what this man was actually managing on any given day.
And what he was managing is staggering. Through these provided notes, we catch him dealing with mystical prophecies, then high-stakes political networking, and then these incredibly mundane administrative duties.
The contrast is just wild.
It really is.
Yeah.
So the goal of this deep dive is to map out this chronological journey for you, the listener. We want to really understand the mechanics of his complex management style and the intense spiritual motivations that were driving him. So, okay, let's unpack this, because before we jump into the timeline, we really have to understand the chaotic world he was operating in.
Right, because context is everything here. What's fascinating here is how these snapshots reveal a man who is simultaneously a spiritual visionary and a highly practical manager. But if you want to understand how Don Bosco operated, you have to picture mid-19th century Turin, Italy.
So this is, what, the height of the Industrial Revolution?
Exactly. The Industrial Revolution in that region is booming. The city is overflowing with young men. You've got apprentices, street kids, orphans, and they've all flocked to the city for work but end up living in absolute squalor.
Just really desperate conditions.
Yeah, heartbreaking stuff. So Don Bosco steps into this void and creates the Oratory. At its core, the Oratory was a youth center, a school, and a home for hundreds of these disadvantaged boys.
And to really grasp his on-the-ground influence, we need to put ourselves directly in the shoes of a contemporary student at that oratory.
Right, imagine stepping into that bustling world.
Yeah, imagine you are a teenager living in this loud, noisy community. You look up to this leader who provides for you. And then we hit the summer of 1862.
This is where the daily reality for these students takes a very intense psychological turn.
That is putting it mildly.
Yeah.
Because earlier in 1862, Don Bosco makes a very public, very specific prophecy. He announces to the community that an oratory pupil is going to die, and I quote, within 3 moons.
Just wow.
Right. Think about the sheer psychological weight of hearing that as a kid in that courtyard. Every single time someone coughs or gets a fever, the entire community must have been on edge.
It creates an atmosphere of hyper-awareness. I mean, you are living with a ticking clock, and you have no idea who the clock is ticking for.
Exactly. And shortly after this prediction, a 19-year-old pupil named David Quadrelli falls seriously ill. Naturally, he is absolutely terrified.
Because he thinks he's the one. He totally believes he is the subject of the prophecy. But Don Bosco visits him and assures him that he is going to recover. However, he adds this incredibly cryptic detail, telling David, another boy will take your place.
Which, introduces a completely different kind of dread.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because if it's not David, the tension in the oratory doesn't dissipate. It actually intensifies because the mystery remains unsolved.
Yeah.
Someone else is going to die.
And the resolution is just tragic. On August 15th, a completely different student, a 14-year-old boy named John Petiti, suddenly passes away. Yeah. Which brings us to the very first August 19th in our sources, August 19th, 1862. The entire community is gathered together. The initial shock of the August 15th death has passed, and on the 19th, they are reflecting in absolute awe on this fulfilled prophecy.
For a student sitting in that room on August 19th, I mean, that realization completely rewrites their understanding of the man standing in front of them.
Right, he's not just a nice guy running a youth center anymore. Exactly. He isn't just a teacher or a charitable headmaster. He has demonstrated a direct, undeniable line to the divine. The level of authority and spiritual reverence that generates is almost impossible to quantify.
But this is where the timeline gives us that chronological whiplash we were talking about.
Oh, here we go.
Because we move exactly 1 year forward to August 19th, 1863. The annual spiritual retreat is beginning at the oratory. Now, after this massive supernatural event a year prior, you might expect him to lean into that mystical persona.
Well, I think he'd be playing that up.
Totally. Maybe host a grand, sweeping ceremony. But instead, Don Bosco enforces strict silence on these rambunctious teenagers for days. And then he gives them a homework assignment.
He literally gives them paperwork.
Right. He invites the boys to write him personal notes detailing their specific spiritual resolutions for the upcoming year. And he tells them he is going to keep these handwritten notes as souvenirs.
This raises an important question, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I really have to challenge the tactical logic of this sequence. I mean, from a pure leadership and management standpoint, if you have just proven to your followers that you can literally see the future, you have ultimate leverage.
You have a mystical aura.
Exactly.
Okay.
Why would you pivot to something as tedious and bureaucratic as acting like a camp counselor collecting scrapbook memories?
Yeah.
Doesn't handing out a mundane paperwork assignment completely shatter the awe-inspiring illusion he just built up?
It seems counterintuitive, yeah. But if we look at the mechanics of human behavior, it is actually a stroke of genius.
Really? How so?
Well, awe is an incredibly powerful tool for capturing attention, but awe is not sustainable.
Oh, okay.
You cannot run a daily community on the constant adrenaline of supernatural fear. The awe got their attention, but Don Bosco understood that daily discipline required physical, tangible anchors.
So the prophecy was the start, but the paperwork was the engine.
Precisely. By asking them to write down their resolutions, he wasn't just managing a school, he was forging a deeply personal, spiritual accountability system. He knew that a year from then, a teenager might forget the fear of a prophecy, but they wouldn't forget that Don Bosco had their written promise sitting in his desk drawer.
So the supernatural events built his authority, but his daily administrative follow-through built the community.
Exactly. He translated ethereal mysticism into actionable, grounded behavior.
That transition from the macro-level mystical to the micro-level administrative actually leads us perfectly into the next major leap in our timeline. Because when you operate with that level of psychological insight, your influence inevitably scales up.
Oh, it scales up massively.
We are moving from managing the daily habits of teenagers to managing the literal hierarchy of the Italian church. By the time we hit the 1870s, his local influence has evolved into massive political reach.
The jump in the stakes here cannot be overstated. We are stepping into a very fragile geopolitical arena.
Yeah, so here's where it gets really interesting. Let's set the scene for August 19, 1871. We find Don Bosco at his private residence in Turin. He is not handing out homework assignments to youths anymore.
No, he's not.
He is heavily involved in a highly classified task entrusted to him directly by Pope Pius IX. Don Bosco is secretly selecting candidates for vacant Italian dioceses.
Which is wild.
Right. He's operating as an underground headhunter, handpicking bishops for the Pope. And the sources note he is planning a very discreet, quiet trip to a place called Nizza Monferrato on August 21st, just to vet and confer with various priests about these appointments. So I have to ask, how does a man primarily known for running youth retreats become an underground headhunter for the Pope?
Right. To understand why this had to be done in secret, we have to look at the massive political friction of the era. This is a period known as the Risorgimento, or the unification of Italy. The newly formed Italian state was aggressively secularizing. I mean, they were confiscating church properties, and the Pope essentially considered himself a political prisoner inside the Vatican. The Italian government wanted control over who was appointed as bishops because bishops wielded enormous local power.
So if the Pope openly announced he was appointing a new bishop in a major Italian city, it would trigger an immediate diplomatic crisis. The state parliament might intervene, or worse, force.
Exactly. The Pope was politically paralyzed through official channels. He desperately needed someone who was universally respected, deeply embedded in the religious network across the country, but who could operate completely below the political radar of the Italian parliament.
And Don Bosco becomes the ultimate cover story.
Yeah.
But how does he actually pull off the mechanics of this shadow diplomacy?
Well, he weaponized his reputation as a humble youth pastor. Think about it. If a high-ranking Vatican cardinal traveled across Italy having closed-door meetings with priests, the secular government's spies would immediately flag it.
Right, it would be front-page news.
But if Don Bosco, the famous charitable educator, traveled to Nizza Monferrato to, quote-unquote, check on his youth centers and ask for donations, nobody batted an eye.
Wow.
He used the very real, very public administration of his oratory as a shield to conduct highly sensitive, practically treasonous statecraft for the Pope.
It is a phenomenal duality in his management style. He could seamlessly transition from the loud, highly visible, chaotic life of managing street kids to the quiet, intensely discreet diplomacy required to outmaneuver a national government.
Discretion was his most powerful management tool in this era. He understood compartmentalization perfectly.
But, when you operate as a shadow diplomat for the Pope and you are building these massive educational institutions, you inevitably amass a sprawling network of elite power players and resources.
Totally.
And that creates a brand new logistical problem. Like, how do you manage hundreds of personnel and wealthy high society donors without losing that grassroots spiritual focus you started with? That exact tension explodes in our sources in the 1880s.
This is the era where we see Don Bosco transition into a role that looks strikingly similar to the executive of a multinational organization. By this point, he has founded the Salesian Society, which formally organized his followers and allowed his mission to scale globally.
Yeah, so let's look at the sheer logistics on August 19th, 1881. It happens to be the feast of Saint Joachim, which is the Pope's name day. Don Bosco is at San Benigno Canavese, and he is presiding over a retreat for 163 young men who are aspiring to join this Salesian Society.
Which is a huge group.
163 novices is a massive administrative undertaking, just in terms of housing and feeding them. But here's the fascinating detail from the notes. To show gratitude to a major benefactress, Mrs. Magliano, Don Bosco celebrates a mass specifically for her and literally leads all 163 of these retreatants in offering their communions for her intentions.
It is a profound mobilization of human and spiritual resources directed entirely at one individual donor.
And the organizational networking doesn't stop there. Exactly 3 years later, on August 19, 1884, he is writing from Pinerolo. He sends this meticulous, direct note of thanks to Countess Bonmartini Minardi for her generous donation toward building the Church of the Sacred Heart of Jesus in Rome.
Another high society connection.
Exactly. Now, I have to be honest, when I read these two entries back to back, I felt like I was reading the playbook of a modern Silicon Valley nonprofit CEO.
I can see that.
I mean, think about the optics here. He is orchestrating a crowd of 163 people to create a massive show of appreciation for one donor, Mrs. Magliano. And then he's writing direct, personalized thank you notes for heavy infrastructure funding to a countess in Rome. It feels incredibly calculated. It feels, well, corporate.
I completely understand why you would view it through that modern corporate lens. Today, we compartmentalize those actions. We have a fundraising department, a human resources department, and a spiritual direction department. But if we connect this to the bigger picture and dig into the mechanisms of Don Bosco's worldview, we see something much deeper. To him, there was absolutely no firewall between administrative strategy and spiritual motivation.
How do you mean? Are you saying he viewed raising capital for construction as a spiritual act?
He absolutely did. He didn't view writing thank you notes to a countess or managing the daily schedule of 163 aspiring Salesians as administrative burdens that distracted him from his spiritual calling.
Oh, interesting.
To him, they were the exact execution of that calling. His entire management style was completely intertwined with his faith, rooted in the theology of gratitude and community building.
So when he mobilizes those 163 novices for Mrs. Magliano, it's not just a stunt to ensure she writes another check next year.
No, the brilliance is in the dual purpose. Yes, it maintains a crucial donor relationship, but more importantly, he is actively teaching those 163 young men the spiritual virtue of gratitude.
I see.
He is showing them that their massive growing organization survives on the generosity of others. He is weaving this wealthy benefactress directly into the spiritual fabric and the daily prayers of the community.
He is essentially double dipping on his impact. He is using the administrative necessity of funding to teach a foundational pedagogical lesson to his trainees.
Yeah.
That is an incredibly efficient way to run an organization.
It is highly efficient, but it only works because it is driven by genuine belief, not just cynical strategy. If it were just a corporate tactic, the novices would have seen right through it.
Yeah, that's true. And, the physical toll of running an organization with that level of intensity and scale really sets the stage for our final date in the timeline.
It does.
Because after exploring the grand prophecies of the 1860s, the high-stakes papal secrets of 1871, and managing massive Roman church constructions and 100-person retreats in the early 1880s, our chronological journey concludes with a very intimate, deeply personal moment.
It is a moment that violently grounds the narrative. It reminds us of the fragility of the human being behind all this massive infrastructure.
Right. It's August 19, 1885. Don Bosco is at the Matthey paper mill. He is not there to build a church or vet a bishop. He's there recuperating.
His health was failing at this point.
Yeah, he's dealing with severe, compounding health issues as he nears the end of his life. But despite being physically depleted, he takes the energy to write a letter to his dear friends, Count and Countess Call.
And the context of this letter is critical. Europe is on edge because of a terrifying threat.
Right. There is a potential cholera outbreak happening in France, where the Count and Countess are currently located. In 1885, a cholera outbreak wasn't just a disruption, it was a devastating, highly contagious death sentence for a community.
It was terrifying.
So Don Bosco writes to them, offering them immediate refuge in a cottage in Lonzo. And in the letter, he promises them a, quote, rousing welcome from the Salesian community if they choose to flee the pandemic and come to him.
It is such a striking pivot from everything we've analyzed so far.
Think about the logistical contrast here. The man who just a year prior was managing the funding for a monumental basilica in Rome, the man who was outsmarting the Italian parliament to handpick bishops, is taking time out of his own medical recuperation to organize a localized safe house for friends fleeing a pandemic.
And this specific moment reveals why anyone today, regardless of their background, should care about examining this historical figure's operational style.
Yeah.
It proves that true, lasting influence, whether in 19th century Italy or today's world, requires an incredibly delicate balance.
Yeah.
To build institutions that survive, you have to possess the macro-level vision to navigate international politics and massive fundraising. But you absolutely must retain the micro-level empathy to care for the vulnerable individuals within your immediate orbit.
That phrase he used in the letter, promising a rousing welcome, it echoes the exact same vibrant community spirit he was instilling in those young, disadvantaged oratory boys decades earlier.
It really does.
The scale of his life changed massively. The budgets got bigger, the politics got deadlier, but the core of how he treated an individual person in crisis didn't shift an inch.
He never allowed the scale of his success to blind him to the individual. Even when he was holding the secrets of Pope Pius IX, he was fundamentally the same man who worried about his friends contracting cholera.
So what does this all mean for us? We started this deep dive expecting to find a predictable rhythm in a daily planner. Instead, by taking a core sample of a single date, August 19th, across a few decades, we discovered a man of staggering complexity. We saw a prophet whose words terrified and awed teenagers.
We uncovered a secretive papal headhunter operating in the diplomatic shadows.
We analyzed a meticulous, incredibly resourceful administrator who managed capital and personnel with the efficiency of a modern CEO. And finally, we saw a fiercely loyal friend offering a safe haven while his own health failed.
It is a remarkable spectrum of human capability to extract from just one recurring date on the calendar. And it leaves us with something quite profound to consider regarding how we interact with the past and the future.
What's that?
Well, consider this final thought. Back in 1863, Don Bosco meticulously preserved the written, mundane, spiritual resolutions of teenage boys, promising to keep them as souvenirs. Because he placed exactly the same level of importance on keeping a child's handwritten spiritual resolution from a silent retreat as he did on funding the massive Church of the Sacred Heart of Jesus in Rome in 1884, historians today are able to reconstruct the authentic psychology and daily anxieties of 19th century Italian youth.
Which is a demographic that official state records completely ignored.
Exactly. He inadvertently created a psychological time capsule just by doing his daily paperwork.
It's amazing.
It is, and it invites you to ask yourself, in our modern era of information and digital networking, have we lost the ability to treat the smallest personal souvenirs and the grandest architectural ambitions with the exact same level of reverence? It forces you to look at your own digital footprint and ask, what seemingly mundane emails, text threads, or digital scraps of paper are we casually deleting today that historians 150 years from now will be absolutely desperate to read?
Wow, that completely changes the way you look at a full inbox. Are you deleting clutter, or are you erasing history?
Exactly. The things we consider administrative clutter today might be the exact keys to understanding our era tomorrow.
That is definitely something to ponder. Well, thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the 19th century. Keep seeking out those surprising connections in your own reading. Take a closer look at what you save on your own calendars, and we'll catch you next time.